Hey guys! Well, as you can tell from the last episode, we are well on our way to wrapping up the exterior of the boat. We have our mast up and installed, we have our sails that are in production, our running rigging just arrived in the mail. We'll get into that in a future video. And we finished our bottom paint, and she looks absolutely incredible. But we're not quite done with the outside part just yet. There are a few more things to do. And the next thing we're going to be working on are our solar panels. This is going to be super exciting, and I'm sure a lot of you were really waiting for this moment. But it's been a very long journey behind the scenes, so in this episode, we're going to fast forward a bit through months of preparation and building the electrical backbone to optimize as much as we can all of the solar we're going to put on board. Let's get into it.
All right, guys. Next on the list of things I need to build is the distribution board for our solar panels. We have decided to put an absolute ton of solar on deck. It's about 6 times more than we had before, which is amazing. In the tropics, what we had before was like just barely enough. It was around 500 watts. And all the way in Svalbard, those 2 panels were still able to produce about 1 kilowatt hour a day, which definitely wasn't enough for us to fully charge our batteries. But it goes to show that even that high north, 78 degrees north during the summer, where the sun's just spinning around you, we're still able to create a decent amount of electricity from solar alone. We have been designing and building an absolute massive amount of solar that's going on deck, and all of those panels need to come in and get controlled so that they can charge our batteries. Normally on a system, if it was residential or if it was someplace that didn't have quite the shading issues we have on a sailboat, the easiest thing would be the most amount of panels on the least amount of MPPT charge controllers. However, because we are trying to make our system as efficient as absolutely possible, which means having all of the panels produce as much electricity as they possibly can and perform at their peak efficiency as long as they can, we've opted to basically put one charge controller on pretty much every panel or every other panel. We've got some small panels that we're going to be sistering together in series, but generally speaking, we're only going to have 1 or 2 panels per charge controller, which means if the mast is shading a very specific angle, it's only going to knock out maybe 1 of these charge controllers, and 1 set of panels will be slightly reduced in its output, not the whole side of the boat or the whole foredeck. So we are putting in 15 of these charge controllers. They're small, they're relatively cheap, and they are pre-programmed at the factory for what we need. So we can't program them ourselves. We also can't monitor each individual MPPT unless we put some sort of shunt in front of it. So to keep things simple and to keep things organized, but to still give us some information about how much solar we're producing, we've decided to split up our boat into 3 separate zones. Basically, everything from the mast forward is 1 zone. Everything between the mast and the dodger is the 2nd zone. And then everything that's happening on the arch is the 3rd zone. And so that pretty much evenly divides the zones up into 5 MPPT charge controllers per zone and around 1 kilowatt-ish of solar per zone. So it's pretty evenly split. But it means I need to build a board that's going in a relatively small space that's doing a whole heck of a lot. So I've already cut my piece of wood, and on the front, we're going to be installing all of the MPPTs, the shutoff breakers, and maybe a bit of a map as to what MPPT is controlling what set of panels. So troubleshooting is going to be a lot easier. And then on the back of this board is going to be all of the zone distribution and where it all buses together and combines and gets sent to our batteries. Before it goes to our batteries, we're going to be sending it through a smart shunt so that we can monitor the input from each individual zone. So we'll have sort of 3 zones, 3 inputs. We'll be able to monitor each one of those 3 separately. And so we'll be able to kind of see and log the data from each zone, not necessarily from each panel. The reason we're making a double-sided panel is because this piece of wood is going to be mounted in front of the fuse board that I made earlier. And all the MPPTs are going to be on the front where we can see and monitor them and see their status LEDs and also access the breakers so we can shut all 3 zones down. And then on the back of that panel is where all the wiring is going to be. And then behind this whole panel is going to be where all the fuse blocks are. That way we can stack a lot of electrical distribution in a very small space and keep it well organized. So I have some building to do, and hopefully I can get all this done today. Let's get started.
Alright guys, so this next part took place a few months later, but also a few months ago. So a lot of things happen at the same time. This is the Umaverse, so you kind of have to keep up. But before I press play again, I just wanted to quickly say thank you to the paid partner of this week's video, BetterHelp. When I'm editing, I always look back at old footage, either for overlays like I did in this video, or just to explain something a little bit better. And just doing that, I can't help to feel super nostalgic. But then I also realized that it's not just the sailing that I miss. What I miss the most are the people, the good energy, the relaxed cruising vibe, the good food, and the amazing people that we meet along the way. And especially here, it's been extremely difficult because we often work from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. So we don't really socialize, which is very isolating, which is why I am incredibly grateful for therapy, and BetterHelp makes it really easy to start and to prioritize your mental health. When you sign up, you take a quick quiz to help BetterHelp match you with a therapist, and from there you can talk to them whichever form you prefer, whether it's via phone call or chat or video messaging. So on that note, let's hit play and go back in time, but also forward in time in the Umaverse timeline. Okay.
So I'm getting ready to wire our MPPT board. I finished screwing all the actual MPPTs onto the front of the board and bolting down all the components on the back. We've split it up into zones. We got 6 MPPTs in each zone except for the last one. And then all of the positive and negatives coming in from the solar is going to go through to an MPPT. And then it's going to come out to these 2 bus bars where it's going to get combined, sent to a circuit breaker per zone that's going to protect all of it, but also act as a switch so we can isolate our boat if we want 0 power. We can shut off the batteries and shut off the solar input. And then the negatives are going to go through a shunt for each zone so we can monitor how much power each zone is making. And then all of that's going to go to these 2 big bus bars, a big negative, a big positive, and then go out to our links distributor. So all the hardware has been bolted down and the layout I think is pretty good. So now it's time to just wire it. I've got a ton of wire and found a pretty sweet hack, because when you buy wire that's not in a full spool, they usually send it to you just in like a loose bundle. And the spools that we use for our 3D printer separate in the middle, so you can put a replacement spool of filament in, and they work perfectly for wire because you can just take that roll, put it in, lock it, and then you've got a spool of wire, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, we've got 4mm wire coming in from the solar panels. We've got 2.5mm wire coming out to the bus bars. So it's a lot of wiring to do. It's a lot of crimping and heat shrinking and labeling to do. It's going to be tricky too, because this board is going to be hinged. So it's got a front and a back. And so setting it up somehow so that I can get wires from one side to the other and crimp them is also going to be kind of tricky. I'll probably do it 1 zone at a time just to break it down a little bit. Yeah, but I think I have everything I need, so let's get started. All right, the MPPT board is all wired up. I just finished cutting and bending and installing these polycarbonate protection panels on the back because this thing is going to be folding up against all of our fuse blocks, and it's just going to make me sleep better at night knowing nothing can like fall or brush up against all of these exposed connections on the back. So we got a hinge on the bottom, and I've got all the cables like pre-wired that are going to connect it to the bus bar where all the solar's coming in. So now I just have to monkey it into that hole back there and try to secure it in a way that doesn't make it fall back out again. It's heavier than it looks. I think what's going to happen is that you're going to climb in there in the back, and I'm going to like pick this up and kind of like set it in, and then you're going to kind of like hold it, and then I'm going to try to get in there with the screw gun and put the hinges in. And then we're going to fold it up, and then we're going to mount this bracket up above it. And then that'll probably be it for today.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of heavy. You want to try to lift it up? Like from there, and it's a lot of metal. Most of the weight's in the cables, honestly. There's a ton of copper in that board.
Looks really good though.
I like it. All right. Yeah, do you want to crawl in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let me pre-position. All right, you ready to receive?
Yeah.
Okay. Help with the cables.
Hold it.
Okay. All right, just balance it there for now. Let me get this guy back. So part of this going in needs to be all of this cable flopping down over by you. And making sure that it stays like behind. Yeah, that's perfect. All of this cable, we can just shove back here for now. And then hinges there. Okay, let's try to like lift it up a little bit and get it like back here. Yep, that's perfect. Yep. All right. Moment of truth.
Will it close? This
Really close.
It clears though.
It's like a millimeter, dude. That's gonna go like that.
Wow.
It's pretty close. Bring it back out again. That couldn't be any closer. That's almost too close. It's like kissing the cork. Oh boy, that's gonna make building out the rest of this more complicated, but it does fit. I think it's the width of this hinge I didn't accommodate for. It sticks up like 1/4 of an inch, so that's probably why it's a little bit off. Now we need to put that bracket along the top so it has something to push up against, and then route all the cables, but it does fit. Here. You can let go. Nice!
Nice.
I also have to figure out what the latch is going to be. Can you just hold these out of the way a little bit? That's so much leverage that it would probably rip the hinge out if we just let go of it.
Well, it will. It would rest on
No,
the
this is too heavy. It's going to need to have like some kind of
rope.
string or something so it comes down, goes, and it stops itself. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, like if you let go now, there's so much leverage that it's gonna.
It'll just rip it.
It'll rip the hinge off. Cool beans.
Yeah. And it lines up here.
This is going up here. Like
For it to rest against.
this. And we just need to get it so that it rests against it just perfectly. Yeah, it needs to go in. It's like 1 millimeter off there.
Yeah.
1 millimeter off there. And then the door width is going to be this, right? So this is, it's going to be like that. Like they're going to be right up against the panel, but. Nice. This isn't one of those things where we like do all this work and then we like tune the rig and the boat changes like this much. It doesn't It's like tunk, tunk, tunk. Like, God damn it. It shouldn't be that tight. I just hope it doesn't bite us in the ass. It's definitely tighter than it should be. That will have a latch on it. I'll keep that right there.
Looks really good.
Awesome. This has been in the design board for since before we went in the shed for paint. 8 months maybe? Since we decided how many MPPTs we were going to need, we kind of based it off of this space. And we originally were going to have 15, but we added 2 more so we could split up the panels even more. And then this last one, I 3D printed this nice little cover for the breakers so you can still access the screws to tighten them up. And then these are going to be our main on-off switches. This is sort of our map. So basically from the mast forward is what we're calling zone 3. And that's going to have a lot of sunshine on it because our foredeck actually gets a lot of sun. And then this middle section, zone 2, is basically like the mid deck and the Dodger and the kind of bimini that's going to cover between the arch and the Dodger. And then zone 1 is like everything that's going to be on the arch, which is intense. We'll get into that later. Each of these MPPTs is capable of handling, it says here, 325 watts. I don't think any of our panels are more. I think our biggest panel is probably the ones that are on the Dodger. They're close to 200 watts each. So most of these MPPTs are going to be running at like 50% capacity, which is awesome. Yeah, and this way we can just like easy access to turn the system on and off, easy access to see the status lights if anything is wrong. And then all the monitoring is happening from the smart shunts on the back, which are going to get connected to our servo. So we can see how much power is coming in from each zone. And solar's super hands-off and super maintenance-free. So the only reason we ever would need to come in here is for some reason if we tripped a fuse, and then we'd open this up and then reset it and then close this again. That's the only time we're going to need to have access to this. I'm assuming most of this is completely hands-off, and it's just going to be like annual maintenance to like check torque and visually inspect stuff. But yeah, I still have to take this lovely chunk. This is all the cables coming from basically the solar panels coming in and connecting to all of these MPPTs. They're getting wired up into this bus bar and fuse block. So they're just gonna go up there, get wired in here. And then when it's time to actually install our solar panels, we just need to take each wire from each panel and just plug the positives and negatives into this bar, this bus bar, and then everything's gonna work because this is connected, this is connected. I need to run the main positive and negative out of this into the 48 volt links. So a little bit more wiring to do, but I'm really glad this fits.
Barely fits.
Whew.
And we almost can't add any felt to that
I
ceiling.
tested this piece of wood and this little piece of wood that it's sitting on, but I didn't test it with the thickness of that hinge, so that hinge almost messed us up. But I like it. I like it a lot. Well, now that the MPPT board is fit and basically installed, now I need to take all of the cables where the solar panels are coming in. All of the wires from the solar are going to be wired onto this DIN rail back here, positives and negatives. And then all of these cables are going to get connected to that rail as well. And that is what connects the solar to each individual MPPT. So we've got 17 MPPTs, positive and negative. That's 34 cables that we need to label, trim, put ferrules on the end, and install. It's going to be quite a fiddly little process. But after that, this project is pretty much buttoned up and good to go. So all I've got left to do is clean up and organize back here. So, just finished wiring up the MPPTs kind of out to where the solar panels are going to be. So now when we start wiring our solar panels on, we can just plug them in here and everything should work. Also wired the positive and negatives to the 48 volt links and put another contactor in between so that if the BMS decides that it doesn't want any charge, it can close this contactor and it will shut down all the power to all of these MPPTs coming in. So I think if I turn these breakers on now, we might see some life out of these because the batteries should all be connected. So they should give us some sort of a status indication even though we don't have any solar plugged in. So, moment of truth.
Let's go. Wait.
It's been 8 weeks since put these in. Ready? Ooh, that was fun. Next. Ooh, that was fun. All right.
Nice.
They're all blinking. They're doing like 2 slow blinks, so I'm assuming that's standby. So I'm assuming that they're on. Let me check. I'm also assuming that I'm going to be getting battery voltage here. Yeah, 52 volts. 52.4. 52.3. I don't want to jinx it, but like all this stuff's installing so easily without any major drama so far. So that's probably a good thing. Yep. Oops. Yep, cool. Well, that works. Also quite anticlimactic. Got to rewire the contactor. This is just sort of temporarily wired. And run the sense cables up to the servo. But that's it. And it folds down. Check this out. I need to put a latch on here. Look how cool that is.
Nice.
Oh, we can put this back on. Smart shunts have a Bluetooth signal as well. So they're powered up. That's cool. Got to build a latch. Got to connect the smart shunts to the servo. That's it. That job's done.
Well, mission successful.
Mission successful. Thanks for all your crimping help and holding this board up. Oh, we need to put like a string on that board so we set it down and holds. So yeah, a couple of things to finish up, but
Cool.
this project has been underway for a very long time in the background. Since originally doing this, I've learned a couple of things and actually went back and corrected something that we did earlier, and that is around these little ferrules that we put on the end of the cables. So on all the MPPTs, they have screw mount terminals, so you put the wire in with a ferrule, and then you use a screw to clamp it down. But these DIN rail ones have a spring inside of them, and you hold it out of the way with a screwdriver and then stick the wire in. And it's come to our attention that the spring-mounted ones you're not supposed to use ferrules on because that spring actually holds pressure on the cable. So when the thermal expansion happens, it doesn't get looser over time. So I've since gone back and actually pulled all the ferrules off of these cables and reinstalled them, which is relatively easy to do. But in case any of you guys were wondering in that video, and we're yelling at your screen and going down in the comment section, it is fixed. But yeah, now we are ready to start installing solar panels. So that should be next week. So I hope you're as excited as we are, and we'll see you next week when we start installing solar panels.